Hello everyone, welcome back to PreAlgebra with Miss Betsy. We are continuing working with fractions. What we're going to do in this video is talk about adding and subtracting fractions that have unlike denominators. In order to be able to deal with those, we're going to have to rename them as fractions with like denominators, and we're going to arrive at like denominators by utilizing something called the least common multiple, or the LCM. But before we do that, our lame joke for today is, as soon as I locate it, what do you get when you cross a dinosaur with fireworks? Dynamite. That one's pretty good, I think, even if it is on the lame side, dynamite fireworks. Okay. What is the least common multiple? What a least common multiple is, it's the smallest number that smallest multiple that two separate numbers have in common. I've got a long video out there that you can go ahead and link to, go ahead and review too, about using least common multiple. But basically, if we have multiples of 2, I don't want to do that, multiples of 9 and multiples of 5. 9 times 1 is 9, times 2 is 18, times 3 is 27, times 4 is 36, times 5 is 45. Multiples of 5, we're just counting by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. When we have the same number, the same multiple show up in both lists, that's what they call the least common multiple. It's the smallest multiple that they have in common. How do you find out what a least common multiple is? Well, as my other video showed, you take the prime factorization of each number. I'm not really quite sure why I wrote a 2 there. 9 is 3 used as a factor twice. 5 is just 5, is prime in itself, so its prime factorization is simply 5. The way that you arrive at the least common multiple is you take each unique prime factor and you use it the greatest number of times that it appears in any one number. Least and greatest, just opposite, because you have to have all of the factors have to be appearing in order to make this work. So you have 3 squared times 5, or 9 times 5, to give us the least common multiple of 45. This is how you calculate least common multiple. This is how you would never want to actually do it except when you're learning the concept. Go back and watch the video on renaming fractions with like denominators using the least common multiple if you need a refresher. Having said that, let's go ahead and continue with section 6.5. If you are using the same text that I'm using, I am in PreAlgebra for Christian Schools. It is published by Bob Jones University Press. We're using the first edition. I'm in section 6.5 on page 193. And now, as always, you don't have to have the same text. You're going to be learning fractions just the same way, regardless of what your book is. So, if this is helpful to you, just go ahead and follow right along with us. So let's say that we have this example here. And this asks us to add 5/8 and 2/3. In one of my prior videos, I quoted Steve Demme, who's the creator of the math program Matthew C., when he said that to compare or combine, you must be the same kind. We're talking about the need to have common fractions, common denominators here if we're going to add or subtract fractions. Something divided into 8 parts, something divided into 3 parts. Those are not common fractions, common denominators, so we have to come up with a number multiple that they have in common, and this is where we use our least common multiple. We take the two denominators and we're going to find the least common multiple of them. So we want to find the least common multiple of 8 and 3. What do? We prime factor each number. And I didn't show the prime factorization tree at this point. I'm expecting you to understand exactly how I got 2 cubed as being the prime factored form of 8, and 3 being the prime factored form of 3. Just search least common multiple under Miss Betsy 9, and that'll help you if you need to locate that video. The least common multiple of 8 and 3, you use each unique prime factor that appears anywhere in the factorization of either of those numbers, the greatest number of times that it appears. So our least common multiple of 8 and 3 is actually 8 times 3, which gives us a least common multiple of 24. Now, what we need to do is rename each of these two fractions with a denominator of 24 in order to be able to add them together, because once we have a denominator of 24, then they're the same kind. Both fractions have been divided into 24 equal parts. So let's go ahead and do this as vertical addition. We have 5/8 plus 2/3. And we want to go ahead and rename each of these fractions with a denominator of 24. We're going to do that by multiplying the numerator and denominator of the fraction by the same number. 8 times what will give us 24? 8 times 3 is 24. You have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number in order to make this true, because when you multiply something by 1, you don't change its value. Here you're going to change its appearance. 15/24 looks different from 5/8, but it has an equivalent value. It's just that we have more pieces over here in the 15/24. Now, what do we need to multiply 3 by so we end up with 24? Well, 3 times 8 is 24. You have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. Remember that when you multiply fractions, you multiply numerators together, you multiply denominators together. Here we've multiplied by 3/3. Here we've multiplied by 8/8. That's the way it's supposed to be. You're going to have to multiply the two denominators by different numbers so that you can end up with a common denominator. Now, what can we do once we have renamed both of these fractions with a denominator of 24? Well, just go ahead and do your arithmetic. When you have the same denominator, what do? You add the numerators. So you have 15 plus 16 is 31. What do we have now when we have 31/24? Well, that's an improper fraction. It does happen to be reduced to lowest terms because 31 is a prime number. However, they want you to be practicing rewriting improper fractions as mixed numbers. So we're going to go ahead and do that for them. How are you going to arrive at the mixed number form? We're going to do a long division problem. 31 divided by 24. can count 1, 24. 1 times 24 is 24. 31 minus 24 is 7. Write that as a fractional remainder. 1 7/24. So the answer that your text is looking for is 1 7/24. Mixed number. These both have the same value. Both of these are reduced to lowest terms. They have the same meaning. I accept either of these answers unless it specifically tells you, give me a mixed number or give me an improper fraction. Because both of these are equivalent values reduced to lowest terms. So that's an example of how you would add two fractions together that have different denominators. We found the least common multiple, which was 24. We multiplied each specific denominator by whatever factor was necessary so that we could rename that original fraction of 5/8 with a denominator of 24, giving us 15/24. We did the same thing. Here we multiplied 2/3 by 8/8 because that allowed us to rename the fraction 2/3 as 16/24. 16/24. Now we have the same kind of fraction. Both denominators are 24. We added the numerators together to get 31/24. This is actually an improper fraction. It's all right because it's been reduced to lowest terms, but your text is asking you to do one additional step where we take that improper fraction, divide it so that we have a mixed number reduced to lowest terms. I'm happy with either one of those answers unless your text or your test specifically says, give me a mixed number or give me an improper fraction. And that's really about all that's involved in this. Let me go ahead and very quickly do one where you're adding three numbers together. And I'm going to choose to do another one with addition. Subtraction is the same thing. And y'all are smart enough guys, smart enough gals to figure that out. Let's say that we want to add 5/6 plus 3/4 plus 1/2. Obviously, don't have the same denominator. We have to come up with a common denominator, and that is going to be our least common multiple. In order to get our least common multiple, we have to write each denominator here in prime factored form. So we can say 2 is a prime number, so its prime factored form is just 2. 4 is 2 used as a factor twice, 2 squared. 6 is 2 times 3. What is our least common multiple? Our least common multiple is every unique prime factor. We have a prime factor of 2 times a prime factor of 3. We have to use it, each prime factor, the greatest number of times it appears anywhere. Here we have a 2 squared. So our least common multiple is 2 squared times 3, which gives us a least common multiple of 4 times 3, or 12. This means that we have to rewrite each of these fractions with a denominator of 12. 3/4 and 1/2. We're going to add these together. We want to write each of these with a denominator of 12. Let me get my eraser here. This smeared up mess right here is really bothering me. 5/6, 3/4, and 1/2. 6 times what gives us 12? 6 times 2 is 12. 5 times 2 is 10. 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times 6 is 12. 1 times 6 is 6. We now have 3 fractions with the same denominator of 12. We just add the numerators. 10 plus 9 is 19, plus 6 is 25 twelfths. This is an improper fraction. It is reduced to lowest terms, but they want us to write this as a mixed number. How do you calculate a mixed number? Well, you do that by performing the long division. 25 divided by 12. 2 times 12 is 24. Your remainder is the numerator of the fraction with the divisor as the denominator. So our mixed number is 2 and 1/12. Once again, either of these numbers is acceptable to me unless you have been told that I specifically want an improper fraction or I specifically want a mixed number. And that's all that we have for this lecture, and I will see you next time.